Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I'm so glad to be here. My promise to you, as always, is I'm going to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine. It's going to energize your business and help you stay social. Because after all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? I know I do. And I just want to welcome Jay. Welcome.
Hello, Lorraine. How are you?
Good. So tell me a little bit about your business, what you do, and who you serve.
So I run a software testing agency out of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, about 30 minutes north of Philly. We work with custom software development shops or SaaS companies. So either people who make digital products for other people or make their own digital products. And either we come in as kind of a full QA as a service, quality assurance as a service, and do all the testing for them, all the browsers and automation and performance, or we'll work with kind of companies that have an established team already and come in and do automation projects, performance projects, security projects for those kind of bigger companies, anywhere from 200 to 2,000 people. So yeah, we're a QA agency.
How did you start your business? Like, did you just wake up one day and say, I'm going to do this? Or was it introduced to you? Or was it something you always wanted to do?
It was not something I wanted to do. I don't know anybody in my entire life that was like, I want to either do QA or start a QA agency. Probably being a mediocre programmer was how I got into it. I went to school to make video games down in Florida at Full Sail. Loved that school. But video game industry is wild. Not really. It's just too high stress for me. I didn't really want to go down that path. I didn't think I was the best developer in the world. And luckily, I got bailed out in college, and they had a program where they were hiring out of college directly into the workforce. And somebody said, hey, do you want to be a tester for us up in Pennsylvania? And jumped at the opportunity and kind of never looked back.
Yeah, wow, that's exciting. I mean, it's just like I was thinking, oh gosh, I don't know if I would want to do that.
No, it's not. But, I mean, it's the last line of defense. If you miss something, the one thing you miss is the thing that somebody's going to find that you didn't test for. Will be the one thing that somebody finds in production.
Yeah, and so you probably have some people that work under you and everything. How do you find and retain that good talent?
So I built my business using Upwork initially. I was a freelancer. It was back 10 years ago when it was elance.com. And I brought in a couple of people here and there to work on projects with me that I didn't have enough time to do. Eventually, I made the pivot and said, I'm not going to do the work on this project. I'm going to bring in somebody I know. And it was actually a guy that I worked with in a physical office a few years prior to that. Asked him if he wanted to come on board, and he's still working with me to this day. So we have around 60 folks now. We find a lot of those through our network that we've built. We've got a U.S.-based team, a team in the Philippines, but kind of a variety of sources, LinkedIn, referrals, Upwork, just a lot of, and as you grow your business and you grow your network of employees, if you're a good employer, I think it's pretty easy to find new talent because other people in their network are going to want to work with you. And I've always kind of been in the mindset if people want to work with me, then they're going to work with me. If I'm not a good boss or not a good, leader, then they're not going to want to work with me. But so far, I've gotten really lucky and got some really good people.
Yeah. Like me and many others out there, you built your business and you have a family. You probably were building your family simultaneously. How do you balance that? How did that happen? Because I know, like, for me, it was really, really hard.
Building a family. I like that. I like the way it makes you kind of think of it as like a factory. You have to have a strong partner in crime, obviously. You have to be aligned on, certain core principles in your life. It's been, my kids don't know a world where I'm not, we're more than 10 feet away from them. I mean, even when they're at school, they're, 3 blocks from here. So, for better or worse, we've been together very closely for those years. Got 5 kids, got another one on the way in February. So we're busy. But we love it. It's just controlled chaos. And we got lucky and have some great kids and a great family to help support us. So I think just having the support of your significant other is probably the biggest thing. She took a lot of the load on when I was building the business and still does to this day. So, you got to have a really good yin and yang to pull it off.
Absolutely. It's funny. When you were saying 5 kids, another one on the way, I have 4. And I remember one time, this is actually a funny story to me, at least. I had my 4 kids, and one of the sister-in-laws came over with their 3 kids, and it was like literally out of control. And I made a comment. It's like, well, when did we lose control here? And
Yeah.
she said to me and looked at me with a strange look and said, when did we ever have control?
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. It's just controlling the chaos,
Yeah. And it's funny. I spend my whole, I felt like my kids are all grown now, but I spent my whole life carting them around. So I used to call myself the Fairfield County taxi cab driver.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like great.
Yep.
So, how do you market? I'm just curious, you have all these things going on. You're a family, a business, you're testing, you're, running different crews and all this kind of stuff. How do you market your business? Because you do have to market.
Yeah, I have a really strong operational layer in our business, led by an amazing person in my life, my CEO, Autumn, who lives over in Ohio. She handles a lot of the day-to-day operational stuff. We also have a strong support team that kind of deals with all our day-to-day scheduling and with, getting on podcasts and scheduling our podcast and doing all these other different things. So, to answer your question, I've delegated most of the other tasks that I used to do, which has freed me up to do more kind of long selling as far as, sales go, making connections, doing that sort of thing. We don't do any real inbound marketing today, except for podcasts, right? Being on these podcasts, I think, is a great, and what Podmatch is, $60 a month or something. I mean, you're not going to beat that for as far as like getting yourself and your brand in front of other people and on their feeds is by being on other people's podcasts. We've run some ad campaigns. I don't really do much of that anymore, but I do some outbound. I'm a big fan of automation. I do use Dripify for LinkedIn, which is kind of an outbound marketing tool for LinkedIn. I use Apollo for cold email campaigns that are outbound. And just the networking and kind of in-person events in Philadelphia. I like to kind of aim our sites more in the cities around us, just because I've had a much higher, success rate doing that. But that being said, we have businesses that we work with in Texas and California and Mexico and Europe and like all over the world. But there's I said it yesterday on a podcast too. I think if you only have one channel for sales or marketing, you're probably not going to be doing pretty well. You have to establish multiple channels for how you market. You have to go to different platforms. You have to have different approaches. You have to do different things. Number one, to find new customers, but number two, to keep, if you're doing it, to keep yourself interested, right? If you're just beating yourself into the ground, doing cold email 8 hours a day, what are you doing? You gotta get out there and try different things. So it's a big mix, and we have our own podcast, the First Customer, where we interview a bunch of founders and stuff. So that's been a good lead generation tool for us too.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about being on various different platforms and having different avenues. As a social media expert, I usually tell people that you also have to network in person. It's really important, and nothing is like that face-to-face interaction you have. And the thing with being on different platforms, everybody consumes content differently. Like you have a new age that everybody, like, I remember sitting in the doctor's office with my older son, and literally we were consuming, at least it was during COVID, so it was like 20 TikTok videos and 5 seconds. And so some people, consume it that way. Some people still do like to read. Some people like to view pictures. Some people like to listen to podcasts while they're driving. So we really have to be, when we're marketing, we really have to be aware of that. One of the things that when you're in business is that you actually are the salesperson for your business. How does that work for you? For a lot of business owners, it's probably the hardest thing. How does it work for you?
I have this very distinct memory of me, and I was dressed nice, and I was sitting in a bar with one of my friends who owns actually a client of mine, and I was kind of kicked back, and I was talking, and the lady next to us starts talking to us, and she's like, "Oh, you must be like the sales guy for your company," and I'm like, "Yeah, right. Like, I'm not a sales guy. Like, that's not what I do." And just that thought was how I operated for a long time. I thought I'm not a salesman. I'm a CEO. And I couldn't have been more wrong. Once I got over myself a little bit and got over my fears and got over my hesitations. And I think to your point about in person is a great point. And it is the most terrifying thing. And that's why online is so easy, because you don't have to go out there and do that. But I mean, even, today I'm going to a networking event and it's going to be a bunch of people and I'm going to have to, and like, I don't know a lot of people, and you got to kind of step out of your shell a little bit. And a lot of those people aren't going to be your customers, and they're not going to be people who really even care what you do. And you've got to be interesting, and you've got to listen to them and ask them questions. So, I think it's a constant evolution, and it's just one of those things now where I almost take it for granted how hard it was for me to make that switch over to being a salesman. But nobody's going to do that for you. Nobody's going to sell your products for you. I mean, obviously, if you hire a sales team, but I mean, especially as you're growing your company, nobody's going to be your champion. Nobody's going to go knock on doors for you. Like, you have to go do it if you want to be successful in business. And I wish I had kind of realized that sooner.
Yeah, I still have, flashbacks of that first time I went to a networking event, and I'm an extrovert. So it's like, but I remember like, oh my God, this is so hard.
Yeah.
So, not knowing anybody, is like, but what I've realized too is I tend to learn from people. There's some people out there that just are automatically a draw, and you can learn from them. So this is the part of the show where we kind of get a little real here. And so what do you love the most about running your own business?
I love that my kids see their dad running a business. I think that's very cool. I think it's I like, there's not a, I mean, like I said, I'm very family oriented and I spend a ton of time with my kids, but like them, like when they're playing together, like, pretending to be a business owner, or like saying things about the business, or like just like seeing it and being around it. I feel like it's a really good example for them. So I love kind of the impression that I'm giving them about being a business owner, and like I hope they go do it themselves one day. I love leading people, and I love the constant challenge of, it's like that good stress, it's like taking a cold shower, or, whatever. It's like that I should be doing a little bit better kind of all the time. And it's not overwhelming. I don't get like anxiety or like stressed about it, but it's a good driver for me, that kind of keeps pushing me towards being a better, entrepreneur and business owner and leader and all those things that I try to be for my team.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody thinks this is like owning your own business, especially our friends think it's so cool and glamorous. But we both know that sometimes we struggle. What would you say is your biggest struggle when it comes to running your business in today's world?
It's probably the opposite of what I said earlier, where, you have to be everywhere. You have to have so many different channels. There's so many competing avenues for attention that sometimes you go, well, am I even doing the right thing? Am I even should I be spending my time advertising on LinkedIn, or should I be trying to do, I guess that's to kind of abstract it one level higher. It's like, am I doing the right thing? Right. There's a lot of people that depend on me, the people who work for me, my family. And it's, I would say just struggling sometimes to make sure that I'm, spending my time on the right things. Cause I bought a bunch of my time back by having a great team under me, but the flip side of that is if you're not spending your time wisely, then like, what are you doing? Right. You're just wasting their time and yours. So it's just making sure that I'm really focusing on the high priority stuff, and delivering value for my team and kind of representing them in a good light. I think is something it's a positive struggle, but it's something I continue to kind of push towards all the time.
If there was one piece of advice that you could give that would be universal across these 3 professions, 3 careers, 3 whatever, like maybe being a startup business or being a seasoned entrepreneur or thinking of starting your own business, what would one universal piece of advice be?
Hire good people and hire people that are not the same as you. It took me a long time to realize that I don't want copies of myself. I don't want the exact same personalities. I don't want the exact skill set. Hire good people that complement you and do things that you don't do or do them better than you. And that's how you build a successful business.
Absolutely. If somebody resonated with you today, how would they get in touch with you?
You can reach out on LinkedIn, Jay Aigner, Aigner. You can check out the website for JDAQA, my software testing agency, JDAQA.com, or shoot me an email, jay@JDAQA.com, and check out the First Customer at firstcustomerpodcast.com.
Thank you so much for being such an awesome guest today. And until next week, everyone, I will see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram @BizGoneSocial for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.